Top 5 skills needed to thrive. Number 1, networking.
Okay, cool, but we hear that a lot though, Ria, yeah? But how does somebody just start networking? Because we just throw around this term a lot. How does that happen?
Listen, everybody throws around the term networking, but what networking actually means is just having conversations with the right people. Like, so many of us are put in rooms with people that are higher skills, higher expertise, more experience in a certain field, and we look at them or are intimidated by the fact that we have to go out of our way to have a conversation with this person. Maybe because we're an introvert, maybe because this person, I don't know, seems like some sort of giant monster in the space that they're in, that we can't go and have a conversation or connect with them. But really and truly, that's not it. Like you said in a previous video, having conversations actually opens doors. Having conversations is how people close deals. Having conversations is how people get places, get anything. When you go into a shop or you go into the doctors, you have to ask someone for something, right? And you having a conversation, a good conversation at that, because especially in a world when it comes to your job, people favor people. People buy from people. People buy into people. People remember people for things as top of mind based on what type of conversations they've had with them, based on how much intelligence they've shown in said conversation, based on literally just, you could even be funny and this person's like, oh my god, this person's a laugh, I want to go back and have a conversation with this person. But just being likable, networking is a fancy name for just being likable, having good conversations with certain people at any given point.
What if you don't think you're a conversationalist? Like, you know, some people are just not, they're not really good at holding a conversation or guiding a conversation, or like, what if you don't feel like you're a conversationalist?
Then ask people questions. Like,
okay,
ask people questions. Like, you might not have a lot to say for yourself, but you might start with, oh, how did you get into said thing? And that person might give you a little spiel. And then based on what that person said, pick out something interesting and use that as a question. Oh, well, that person, oh, I got into said thing because I did a university degree in this. Oh, how did you find university? What did you study? What was your experience at university like? Etc., etc. But also, it's that step of actually going out and networking to that, going out and making conversation with that person. When people are introverts, like, trust me, I've been an introvert before. I've been shy a lot of my life, and you can't anticipate how a conversation is going to go until you've had the conversation.
True.
And
that's not, say that again. That's deep. No, real
that's
talk.
true.
That is.
You can't anticipate how it's going to go until you've had said conversation. And being an introvert, or being someone that has been introverted for a lot of my life, going and doing those hard things such as networking, going to an event by yourself or whatever, you think it's going to be daunting, and then you go and do the thing, and it's just like, what was I scared of?
100%.
What was I actually scared of?
That is, but the reason I asked you to say it again is because it made me think. Do you think then some people are almost assuming it's going to go like this, without actually knowing how it's going to go, and so they've already talked themselves out of it?
Exactly. Like, you're assuming it's going to go bad. Why don't you assume that it's going to go well? Why don't you assume that this conversation is just going to free flow?
Yeah.
Like,
I know you've got 4 other things, but quickly, last one on networking. Conversations are one thing, but obviously keeping someone in your network, sustaining that relationship. What do you have to say in regards to that? Because that's real networking, isn't it?
do you know what? If we're going to be honest, it's very hard to network as a person if you don't have something going on for yourself. Because it's like, for example, based on like a conversation we did have earlier, that person might have felt like it's hard for them to say things about themselves or spark up conversation because they might not have much happening outside of school, or they might not have much happening outside of the things that they have to do. And it's like, if you keep yourself busy as an individual, you have hobbies, you have interests, you have this and that going on, you'll find it very easy to relate to people. You find it very easy to bring up conversation, because I think I saw this quote one time which said, happiness comes from happenings. So if you have some stuff happening in your life, you've got stuff to talk about, bro.
You've
got
That's what Americans would say, innit? They're looking for a man. He got to have some motion. You've
got to have some motion. You've got to have something going on for yourself. You've got to have a little bit of something going on. So, literally, guys.
Even if you got to decide in that moment when you just met the person, this is going to be my motion today.
Yeah, this is going to be my motion.
Before today, I didn't have no motion.
I didn't have no motion, but listen, I'm trying to get in motion, and this is my first step to doing that.
100%.
One last thing on networking: being real. people are gonna smell inauthenticity off a mile away. You can't go up to
I
someone.
thought
Oh
you said
my
people are gonna smell you. I'm not. I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say
no,
are gonna
people
smell.
smell inauthenticity off a mile away. So if you are trying to be someone that's not you, when you're talking to someone, it's just gonna be like, oh, yeah. But no, people recognize real. So try and be you in all spaces that you come to, networking in any environment.
Facts.
So yeah.
What's the next one?
Number 2, critical thinking.
Critical thinkers.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. This one is very, very important. This one is very, very important because nobody wants to be around somebody, or nobody wants to employ somebody that doesn't have the initiative to be able to think for themselves.
100%.
Like, people, let's just think about employers for a second. Employers, it might not be your line manager, but it might be your line manager's manager or their boss. They want to breed a team or a healthy culture or organization of people that are doing things, because they don't want to give their money to somebody that's just coming into work being told what to do and not even doing it right. Like, learning to think critically, learning to stand on your own 2 feet when it comes to a task. Like, somebody could have given you a task, your manager could have given you a task, and they're thinking, oh my god, I'm expecting this person to, you know, go outside of the box. I'm expecting this person to use their common sense to put 2 and 2 together. But if a person hasn't thought critically about something, and you've literally just looked at something and said, I can see there's a problem here, but I'm just gonna be a yes man and say to my manager, I'm gonna do this however you've told me to do it, but I know deep down this is not the right way or the best way to do something. Now imagine you went to your manager and you're like, excuse me, I know you've given me this task, but I feel like there's a better and faster way of doing said thing. You showing that your level of critical thinking to get something done faster, you think that person's not going to think about you first for a promotion, or you think about that person's not going to think about you first when it comes to you managing a certain project. Like, learn to think critically, and people are going to remember you for your thinking skills. They'll see you as a problem solver, which then leads me on to my next point. Being a problem solver is a next skill that you need to thrive in any workplace.
Just quickly on that point, some people, I find it's easy to be at 2 ends of the spectrum here. Some people are like trying their best to be a problem solver to the point where they're not really understanding the problem. They just want to come across as the person with the solution. And so what happens is, as somebody who might be presenting the problem, when somebody jumps to the solution, I could find it quite frustrating, because I'm like, fam, you haven't even taken time to understand the problem. I.e., you haven't done the critical thinking, but you're trying to jump to solutions. Because in their mind, they think, oh, I just want to stand out as the person that has solutions. So how do we overcome that? So just remember that part of the question. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the people who, because you're saying top 5 skills needed to thrive, and I know you said by the age of 21, right? Some people might be like, oh, I lack the experience of the problem to know how I can solve it. So how do we overcome those people who are saying, well, I don't know how to solve the problem because I lack the experience, when you've got people at the other end who are like, I just want to come across as the problem solver, but they're not really taking the time to understand the problem before they throw in solutions?
So that brings the first point that you made about not actually having an answer to the problem. That brings me back to my first point about being authentic in any space. Because if you don't know something, just say you don't know. But your rebuttal to I don't know should be, I don't know now, but I'm going to find the answer. I'm going to find someone who will find the answer for me. Because there's no point trying to solve something and then you half-ass it or do it wrong and then you have to do it again. Like, there's a lot of value in doing something right the first time, because it saves you a lot of time. Time is very important. It saves you a lot of time. You're actually exercising that part of your brain that goes out of its way to solve problems. If you say you're going to solve a problem and you half-ass it or you don't do it properly, you're then exercising that part of your brain which just says, I'm going to half-ass things. Why don't you do things 100% the first time around? How you do anything is how you do everything. And I was saying earlier on in my session, sometimes when you are forced to sit down and solve a problem, even when you don't know the answer, you are going to inevitably find the answer, because you've been sitting there for time trying to figure it out. And to answer the second part of your problem, wait, what was it again?
Person who's doing the most, trying to show solutions, but they ain't really taking the time to understand the problem.
I think that's what I've...
Sorry, the one who feels they lack the experience.
Well, You're not going to be, so for example, let's take a content creator, for example. If you are given a role in your workplace and you were told that you are the marketing person, you can't make your 50th video without making your first one. And your first one, you might encounter some problems with learning to use certain softwares or learning to edit in a good style. But how are you going to be able to solve a problem? Get the answer to a bigger problem if you're not actually putting in the reps. You're not going to figure it out first try. That's what comes with actually putting in reps. That's why when people go to the gym, they go to the gym and their problem of being fat or being too skinny is not going to be solved the first time they go. You have to put the work in, you have to put the reps in and exercise that part of yourself that's going to be able to solve problems.
I can hear that still. I can hear that. So what's number 4?
So number 4, taking initiative. Now, what I mean by taking initiative is, again, coming back to the yes man point. You don't want to be that person that's just always waiting for people to come to you. Like, if your manager or somebody that is higher up than you or a teammate is experiencing an issue in something and you know what the solution to that problem is, or you actually know this might make this person's life a little bit easier, or I can actually go out of my way to do this to help forward the problem along a bit. That person or that manager or your team member is going to think of you as a problem solver because you've taken the initiative. No one's actually waiting around and no one's watching you wait around having to be asked to do said thing. Like, certain people, like a lot of people in life, if you're needy, you don't want to, not to say that people shouldn't be needy or ask for help around certain things, but the spirit of neediness or always feeling like you need to be handheld or have a silver spoon in your mouth around everything is not necessarily the approach you want to take when it comes to standing out. Because in the workplace, you need to be seen as a person that's standalone. Like, if I needed this person to do said thing, I know I can give them this task and it's just going to be done because they can take initiative. So this person, in my eyes, has star qualities because really and truly taking initiative means that you encompass all of these skills, really, if you think about it.
I was going to ask you that because almost it feels like number 2 and number 3 are kind of cerebral, they're kind of mental. Like, arguably number 3, you do need to take some action, but number 4 is what guarantees you do the things that number 2 and number 3 set you up for.
Exactly.
That's how I'm seeing it.
Exactly. So taking initiative kind of encompasses all of these three things, because once you've done all of these, it's like I've taken the initiative to network, to be in the learning zone of finding out who I can learn from, who I can mimic, who I can emulate, then the critical thinking of what do I actually do with this information, and then applying the information to solve the problem is me taking initiative. No?
So then give us number 5 then.
Number 5 is
come on, man. Avengers Assemble, man. Avengers Assemble.
Guys, this might be the most important one. There's nothing in this life you can do alone.
What?
Nothing in this life you can do alone. You can't even make a baby by yourself, bruv. Sorry, I'm at this
You can do that. There's couple procedures, but I hear what you're saying still.
Like, you were born alone, you will die alone, yes, but you needed your mum to make you. You needed people to look after you as a child. You're gonna need people to, work with in order to be able to make a living for yourself. You're gonna need to lean on people in times of hardship. So if you're going to be in a work culture for a specific period of time, why not make it a place where you enjoy being around the people that you work with? Why not make it a place where people enjoy being around you? Because you don't want to be seen as the unlikable one, for one. And 2, you are going to need people, and people are going to need you. And it's going to be much easier trying to climb a ladder in whatever workplace you're in if you are actually a likable person and people feel like they can rely on you. And you all also in turn feel like you can rely on people, because building relationships, and this is kind of like a full circle moment, you have to network to be able to build relationships with your team. You need to be seen as being all of these things for people to be like, yeah, this is a star team player right here. And I feel like I can give them the responsibility to do whatever, really and truly. But you can't do that without being seen to be on the same team as everybody else.
Facts. So just to round up then, let's finish with you giving a story related to one of these, or maybe how the 5 of these connect, that show how you overcame the hurdle of having to develop one of these skills and habitualize it for yourself. Give us a small story or an example of where you've had to do that for either all of them connected or just one of them.
So this might tie into all of them, but let's just take networking, for example. I've said before, I'm still very much an introvert. I would say now I've kind of turned a bit into an introvert, but the introvert in me still lives on. And going out of my way to have certain conversations with people is very daunting at times. But me thinking critically about what I want to achieve for my career long term lets me know that to solve a problem which comes from maybe a lack of relationships right now, a lack of prospects, I need to be networking with people to exercise that skill of having good conversations, being in the learning zone, understanding what people want, understanding human psychology. And that's me taking initiative because I know it's something I need to do to forward my career or to build a better foundation for myself. Let's just say team player as well, just because I would like to think that building up a network of people that potentially might be in or around my team one day is me being a team player. Because even then, just making that network and that connection with people, I would like to think of that person as either a friend, a business colleague, a relationship in some sense, and I want them on my team if they're a good person at the end of the day. So yeah, all of these you can see how all of this will fit into what you need to do in a workplace, how you need to move in a workplace, and just being on point in just your personal life. Being on point comes with all of these types of things. Top 5 skills needed to thrive here, yes, for in a workplace, but just for wider life. These are things you're always going to need, always. Yeah, guys, thank you for watching. If you want to be in a community of people who are audacious, please like, comment, subscribe, stay connected.